Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us today. Today's is a first of many series that we're going to be talking about digital qual transformation, so making the most of digital qual. It's going to be set up as a conversation. It's a conversation for about 12 minutes, followed by a Q&A session. And hope everyone is staying healthy and safe, and more importantly, positive. So today, from marmatchbox, I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tommy, who is our managing director of our qualitative practice. And my name is Brent Snyder, and I co-run the North American business for Matchbox, as well as the BED function. And we've heard a lot from our clients over the last several weeks, as it relates to the issues that we're dealing with the pandemic. And the idea for today is to then repurpose some of these questions and themes and really talk about how we can apply that now and also in the future. So what that looks like. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tommy to kick us off for a little bit of background on Matchbox, and then we'll get right into the Q&A.
Thanks, Brent. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being a part of this. I know we're all on lots of Zoom calls and conferences and things like that. So we really do appreciate you being here. A couple of things, I guess, before we get started. We're hoping that this will be a series of conversations over the coming weeks around the ways that research and insights are changing in light of sort of the uncertainty that we're facing with the COVID-19 pandemic. So we'd love any feedback if you have it. Please let us know what would make it more helpful, what went well, what you'd like to see more of. That would be great. And as Brent said, I'm going to walk through a couple of slides and then we'll switch into conversation. And then at the end, we're going to be taking questions that you guys may have. So since everyone's on mute and listen only, you can type your questions into the question box, and we'll get those and address those when we're done. Without further ado, I'm going to spend just a very short amount of time talking through just who we are. So there's a little bit of context for the conversation that Brent and I are going to have, and then we'll be done with that. So marmatchbox is an insights consultancy, and we operate at the intersections of behavior and emotion. And by that I mean that everything that we do, qualitatively, quantitatively, consultative services to our clients, is based on an understanding that emotions are heavy primary influencers of the actions that we take. And that if we don't understand the emotional connections that consumers have with brands, with products, or with services, then it's very difficult to understand really what's going on and why they're choosing to buy something, why they're choosing to engage with a product or brand. So everything that we do is really, we talk about it as closing the say-do gap, minimizing the gap between what people say that they do and what we know that they actually do, so that we can drive a better, deeper understanding of consumer behavior. Our qualitative team especially is very, very aware that consumers don't operate in a vacuum, and that culture influences the emotional connections that people have with brands to a very significant degree. And so we spend a lot of our time thinking through not just the feel, behave, think sort of triad, but also understanding what are the dominant cultural factors and themes that are influencing the ways that consumers feel about things, and what are the emerging themes that affect them. And we believe that understanding those cultural factors helps drive better insights and better strategic decisions. So I'll stop there with us, but I just thought it would be helpful to have a little bit of context. Brent, do you want to kick us off with some questions, and we'll just start the conversation?
Would love to, Tommy. So,
all right, thank you.
First question, will digital qual give me the same insights as when we conduct in person? I think this was one of the major questions that has come up over the several weeks with our clients. So love to hear our perspective.
Yeah. So as we've been talking to clients about this kind of thing, I think it's interesting to remember that insights are they're multifactorial, right? They're a function of the data that we collect, the sort of analytical chops that we bring to that data, the stories that we tell, the understanding that we have of our client's business situation and strategic challenges. So if you think about insights as that sort of cluster of factors or a result of those, then I would say absolutely yes. The data that digital qual yields is incredibly rich, is incredibly deep. There are a number of reasons, I think, for that. If you had asked me that question, or if we were having this conversation, 5-6 years ago, I would have said, I don't really know. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I think because of the ubiquity of mobile devices, the comfort that people have, through Instagram and WhatsApp and Snapchat, with sharing their lives with digital devices, the sort of comfort and ease that they bring to that means that we're getting just richer and richer data from the digital qualitative that we're doing. And I guess I should also say, digital qual is a big catch term, right? Big catch-all term. It means a lot of different things. It can mean real-time webcam kind of interviews, right, with groups of people, dyads, triads, one-on-one interviews through webcam. It can also mean what we would call asynchronous, data collection, which is allowing people to, take their time over a period of days or weeks to complete a number of exercises and do that where it's not necessarily in real time. So again, all of those things, it's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day. We were talking about the ways that online groups have changed, and it used to be that you would have to spend the first 5 minutes at least of an online focus group or dyad or triad or even sometimes IDI, just letting people get comfortable with the talking over and oh no you go no oh sorry and it's been interesting, I think, a byproduct of the unfortunate situation that we are in now, where everybody's having to do this all day every day, that we're actually seeing people just get more and more comfortable and acclimatized to doing that. Great. So I don't know if that answers that. That's a lot to say, I know, but no, I'm really encouraged. Yeah, I think that the digital qual capabilities are in a really great place. I'm sure they will continue to improve, but it's been really encouraging to see what we've been able to get.
Great, fantastic. So the next question or theme that has come up with clients is, how do I make digital not just a temporary compromise, but a permanent one? So optimize part of their sort of research repertoire. So in essence, how do we take advantage of the digital requirement to bring insights into more of an innovation area?
I think there's been a lot of fits and starts with this. I think what I've seen with clients is that there's been a period of holding out on research. Like, well, let's wait and see how long this is going to go, and let's not make any big changes or decisions right away. As the situation has continued, people are starting to move into digital. You can't put it off forever. You can't put everything on hold. Life has to go on. We continue to have conversations with clients or with consumers and users. And so people are starting to ask. We're having questions about, well, is there a way to carry this forward in a better way, in a more thoughtful way, moving into the long term, like not just thinking short term? And I think that yes, and what we've been telling clients is that the benefit of digital qual is that the boundaries that are traditionally placed on qualitative around geography and time and number of participants really doesn't matter anymore. It's real, like, if you can imagine, like, if geography were no option, if your qualitative participant pool was the entire population, online population of the US, how would that change how you approached things? How would that change how you asked questions? If we didn't have to scrunch a discussion guide down into a 2-hour block of time in a facility, and you had all the time in the world, all the time that participants were willing to give you, right, how would that change your research design? Like, what would you do differently? We've been talking to clients about starting and stopping, right? Like thinking about how could I start a digital qualitative study or undertaking, and then what's the benefit in actually like putting it on hold for a couple of days, looking at the data, thinking through what you're learning and seeing, and perhaps what that means for subsequent questions, and then re-engaging with those people. Right. So I guess the short answer would be that this is the time to be considering, what does digital allow me to do that in person can't? So I think, and perhaps it's a mindset change, right? To say, this isn't a compromise. This isn't an unfortunate you know, deleterious effect on the insights industry, it's actually an opportunity to say, okay,
Great.
well, let's rethink this a little bit.
Fantastic. Good stuff. So I guess then taking that thought as an opportunity, what are some of the things, that we're seeing, that's tangible, that
Yeah.
that clients are doing right now?
Well, I think one thing that comes to mind, we were working with a client just last week, thinking through their response to customer concerns around safety in the COVID crisis, and they had a bunch of messaging that obviously the stakes are incredibly high right now. People need to get the tone right, they need to get the content right, they need to, it needs to be perfect. And they were able to actually use digital qual to turn what would have been a 3-week study into a weekend. So we were able to do interviews in an incredibly short period of time. They went from concepts on Thursday to a go-to-market microsite with fully tested, optimized content on Monday afternoon. So that's, I think clients are acting very quickly. They're moving really fast, and I think they're also testing and evaluating as they go. So figuring out, okay, we've moved really quickly. Now, how did that work? And what do we do next time? How do we think differently about this, given what we have to do next? So that's the biggest thing that comes to mind. I think they're also thinking about, how do I do this internationally, and how can we be that quick and that nimble if we've got translation that needs to be handled, or we've got local market cultural conditions that I have to take into consideration. So it's asking good questions, and it's moving really quickly.
Yep. Test and learn mentality too, which is great.
Yeah, I think so. We've been talking about that, I think, in Qual for a long time, the need to be iterative and the need to be, testing and refining, testing and refining, testing and refining. And now it's just happening quicker and more frequently and more commonly with the people we're talking to.
Great. Another one that has come up recently is, how do we maximize the digital channel to get the most from people? So especially sort of unconscious and nonverbal.
Yeah, so the idea that like in person, we can do a lot of projective techniques. We can read body language, we can read facial expression, we can read context, and that can be difficult in some instances with digital. I think one of the things that strikes me about digital is the fact that everything is digital, and so a lot of those projective techniques, image collages, storytelling, even acting out scenarios that help us understand more about what's happening emotionally, unconsciously, are actually easier to do in some respects digitally, because the image bank that people have to pull from is whatever they can find. There's also, I think, really interesting ways to use video with digital qual, and to think about what are creative ways. Again, if you, I love this. Like if you think about pulling away the restriction on, I've got 8 people in a focus group facility, or I've got one person for an hour for an IDI, and you actually have access potentially to their family members. You have access to their house. You have access to. So thinking through, how do you ask questions in a way that will help them better communicate over video? So can you have a roommate or a family member interview them? Could you have them interview the person in their house to ask questions? How do you think I feel about this? Like those are really interesting metaphor elicitation techniques and personification and projection ideas that I think are ideally suited for that unconscious surfacing of emotions.
Cool. Can you get into a little bit before we take some Q&A? From everyone tuning in, can you talk about digital can be used sort of in the moment insights? So I think you touched upon this a little bit in the last answer. So in the kitchen, in the home, when it's ready, at yourself, moment of truth. These bigger questions that clients are really dealing with at this stage.
Yeah, I think that is a lot of it. Is how do you think about ways to use the mobile phone? How do you think about ways to use webcams, whatever you have, to be able to get really inside their space? And actually, in many ways, this is stuff that we can't do in person. We did a study recently with watching people. They used an app to record and narrate their usage of an app. So we were able to actually get into their phone, into their apps, even watching them navigate from app to app, because the one that we were testing wasn't doing what they needed it to do, or one we were evaluating. Right. So, that's stuff that we would have had to be in a facility. We would have had a camera. We would have been looking over their shoulder. Right. That we weren't there to mess with that, and I think it gave us some really great insights. So I guess the thing I would say is think about what your organization needs, or what your client's organization needs. What are the images? What are the videos that are going to really bring that person to life? And how can you creatively instruct them or ask them questions to be able to show you what you need to see that's going to resonate more for
right. Great.
So yeah, I think that's
good stuff. Well, we have a few questions.
Okay, great.
The first one is, so we're talking a lot about what's going to be sort of the new normal, right?
Yeah.
And do we see digital qual as sort of the new norm, for doing qualitative research?
That's a real, I mean, is it the new norm? I think to a greater degree than in the past, yes. I don't think that this is a blip. I think that it's forcing companies to think creatively, and I think I can't remember who the quote's from, but the mind is like it's like a rubber band. When it stretches, it never goes back to where it began. I think that that's going to happen with our industry. I was just yesterday or 2 days ago, the Insights Association in the US put out new guidelines for restarting in-person qual. Right. And I was really struck by how disrupted that will be. I mean, everything from how you serve refreshments to when you schedule your groups to how you structure an back room to maintain appropriate distancing and health measures. So I think all of that is gonna, we can't go back to the way that it was, at least not for what I would expect to be a year, frankly. If I talk to medical professionals, they're saying a year to 2 years. I think it's going to have to push us towards more creative, more thoughtful, more common use of digital for qual.
So no peanut M&Ms in the back room for a long time, is what you're saying.
Well, apparently they can be there, but they have to be individually packaged. Not the M&Ms, but the like little packets of M&Ms. Everything has to be disposable. Yeah.
One other question came in. What are some of the most innovative ways you're seeing digital qual applied, by clients?
What strikes me with what clients are doing, many of the clients that I've seen and heard about are doing is, again, thinking really creatively about how you get out of the shackles of having to be in a specific market for a specific amount of time. Even like what I would call sort of quanti-qual or quali-quant, where you have massive survey databases, you have access to numbers of people, and being able to really nimbly through digital go from a quantitative sample to then pulling qualitative data from a small number of those people to go really deep, and then backing back out again into a larger scale quantitative study. That's just so easy, and it's so efficient, and really it's really effective, because you no longer have that sequential, like stepwise process to say, well, now we're going to go into qual, and then we're going to go into quant, and then we're going to go back into qual. It's just like boom, boom, it's super fast. And I think, frankly, like what we're seeing in terms of participant responses, and even like we always ask questions of surveys at the end of the survey. How would you rate how much you enjoyed the survey? Right. We're actually seeing those numbers go up because people are like, this is kind of fun. Right, I'm getting to do stuff that I don't usually get asked to do. So I think that's fascinating.
Great. So more flexibility, more customization, creating greater efficiency at the end of the day.
Really more creativity, yeah, exactly.
A lot of benefits to it. So last one is sort of, everyone seems to sort of have a technology platform to be able to do research, but what do you see as is the key benefit of what Matchbox brings to the table, the feeling, the behavior, the thinking aspect, the philosophy layered on top, so advisory on top of technology as sort of a winning combination moving forward?
That sounds great. Yes. I mean, yeah, I do think so. I think, again, like going back to the first question, insights is a function of the data that you collect and then a whole lot of other stuff that you do with that data. So, you know, there are great platforms out there, and they will collect an incredible amount of really rich data. I think the question is always, so what do you do with that, and how do you tease those insights out in a strong way to help tell a terrific story?
Great. Well, we're just at time. We've managed to stay on time, so that's great.
It's a wonderful
Good
thing.
conversation, and hopefully everyone enjoyed some of the tidbits. So if you need to or want to talk to Tommy, feel free to reach out to him directly. But we will be,
yeah, please.
You know, as the weeks go on, more questions come in, more themes come in. You know, we all need some ideas and solutions moving forward to help navigate sort of the new norm ourselves. So thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I appreciate it.
And
fun.
everyone be safe. All the best.
Bye, guys. Thank you again.
Take care.